As the family was reflecting last week, their return home on Friday for the first time without him being in the home, and symbolically him returning there again to the home that he shared with his wife Anita and the rest of the family. I want to bring in to our conversation somebody who's also walked a very long journey with former Minister Pravin Gordhan, who's been honoured for his contribution in the fight for the betterment of South Africa. And this is the founder and former convener of Save South Africa, Sipho Pityana. Sipho, good morning. Thank you very much for being with us. We're looking at this picture, which I'm sure for you as a long-term and a long-time comrade and friend of Pravin Gordhan would probably be a little bit different. I'm not sure if you're watching live proceedings right now, and if you can see his body has now arrived at his home in Pretoria. And I'd love to give you the opportunity to share with our viewers how you feel in this moment.
Imani, thank you very much to you and your viewers, and good morning. It is indeed a sad day. Unfortunately, I can't see the pictures of what is happening. I'm very sad that I couldn't be there. I had the occasion to speak to his wife Vani and extend our heartfelt condolences as a family, and apologize that we can't be there with her due to family circumstances. But certainly, this is somebody who the country owes a great debt of gratitude, not only for the role that he's just played as a public servant, but the quality of public service that he provided. He rests in peace, assured that many of us recognize that he never for a moment betrayed the true values of our journey of the struggle for freedom.
In 2016, Sipho, when you were still chair of Anglo Gold Ashanti, you expressed losing sleep over attempts to have Gordhan removed by the Zuma administration. You had suspicions of ulterior motives. You warned that if people didn't speak up against the current crop of leaders in the country, things would quickly take a turn for the worse. Through that lens of concern, how do you believe the ensuing years treat Gordhan?
Well, I think that the years of his resistance of state capture right in the belly of the beast were probably one of the clearest demonstration of the caliber of the man, his courage, his willingness to lose life and limb to ensure that we stay the course. And indeed, it must have been very difficult. And I know that it was a great challenge for him and the family. And when you take a stand like that, you lose comrades, you lose people that you've traveled the journey with. It can be a very lonely path, but he stood fast and went ahead. And that's why at that moment, which was quite a pivotal moment, because we had already seen attempts to capture the criminal justice system, which was one of the first acts by the Zuma administration, attempt to capture the judiciary and undermining the NPA and so on and so on. But the state capture project was in full throttle in that it was targeting key strategic economic institution, and Treasury being one of those. And Pravin clearly was an obstacle, and he and Mcebisi Jonas walked the mile, even though they had comrades who had committed to stay by them. They saw them betray them, and they seemed to be isolated. They stayed the course, and he fought hard and fought daringly.
At a funeral service recently, Sipho, former President Jacob Zuma shared fond memories on how Gordhan used to be his close comrade and supporter during his time as the chairperson of the African National Congress's Natal region. This was in the 70s. How do you observe the relationship between him and the former president, going from those very close allies in the underground movement to arch nemesis?
Well, many of us had great hopes around somebody of Jacob Zuma's caliber who didn't go very far at school and was the face of ordinary people's sacrifices in the struggle, that the struggle was not a journey of the elite. And of course, you can imagine the disappointment that came with a clear departure from that on Zuma's part when he had the first opportunity to do so. So I would imagine that Zuma thought that Pravin Gordhan would be loyal to him, but clearly he remembered to be loyal to the constitution of the country, and through the constitution of the country to be loyal to the values of the fight for liberation. And he was he never worshipped a persona, but he was committed to what our objectives of struggle were all about.
With hindsight, Sipho, how important was Gordhan to South Africa's accountability project?
He was absolutely important. He played a pivotal role, because remember that the National Treasury is right at the center of it. Not just National Treasury, but the whole Department of Finance, because SARS, which he headed before, and as a minister, SARS reported to him, and all related institutions around the finance and the finance systems architecture, including the Reserve Bank. He ensured that they had sufficient space and room to do what was expected of them in terms of the constitution. And he appreciated his role of providing political cover and not sacrifice them, and be the first to provide cover for a leader of the ANC at the time, who had no regard for the constitution or the framing of our governance system that sought to ensure that we all owed our allegiance to the people and to the constitution of the country, not to any individual. So he held himself accountable, and when he was kicked out of cabinet, he didn't throw his toys. He went to be a backbencher, and he gave account in particularly the Public Enterprises Committee of Parliament, and helped us to question, unravel, and go and penetrate into what was going on in state-owned entities. Hence the famous reference to connect the dots, and that's what he was helping us to do. He was raising questions about governance and in state-owned entities, to show how far deep and damaging the state capture project had gone, in full view of all of us, and with the support sometimes of government of the day.
But where do you place then the flood of vitriol directed towards him by people who label him a sellout, or others who say that the public must admit his paradoxical legacy, on the one hand when it comes to the turnaround at SARS, glowing, but also then to the continued problems at Transnet and Eskom under his watch, and of course the controversial SAA deal?
Well, let me start first by addressing myself to the two issues pertaining to Transnet, Eskom, and all of those. I think we really need to appreciate how much siphoning of resources happened with the state-owned entities, and Pravin was called in to mop up the mess of the previous administration. As he was doing that, the state capture forces had entrenched quite a number of people that were soldiers of that project, and were never going to let go, because a different minister was in place and a different government was in place. So the agents of state capture continued in the system, not just there, but also in the criminal justice system. You don't have a Tarzan-like approach where you have, at the instance of the appointment of a single minister, that you can sort of have a magic wand and solve all of the problems that arise there. I do believe that it's appropriate that Parliament must continue to scrutinize the circumstances around the SAA transaction, and enable us, the South African public, to get to the bottom of what truly happened there. And that's the responsibility that we should encourage Parliament to pursue, and whoever is on the wrong side of that must be held to account. But there can be no doubt that the strides that were made, of course, there were different leaders that were appointed to state-owned entities, changing of boards, changing of executive leadership in various ways, with many of us providing advice in that process. So part of that failure is a failure of those of us in business, in government, and in labor who were afforded an opportunity through the consultations, extensive consultations that he had with many of us, to try and find suitable leaders. Some of them acquitted themselves well, some of them failed in the process.
So, to close, Gordhan has a legacy history with South Africa. Sipho, rising up as a student activist, that was in the 70s, becoming an underground fighter for the ANC, also being brutally tortured by the apartheid regime. He then becomes this pivotal player in the multi-party negotiations that gave rise to a democratic South Africa, and then playing, as we've seen over the last many years, several roles in public service and government. You've already shared some of this, but how will you ultimately remember him, and how would you urge others to remember him?
Well, and this is what happens in life, that there will be that particular moment in your journey where a great deal of what you've done matters less, and the pinnacle of your contribution shines. And in this instance, I have to say that his role in fighting back the state capture project was the highlight of his contribution in our struggle for liberation. It actually demonstrated the marshalling of all of what that journey of struggle was about, his involvement in the grassroots struggles of the people and the aspirations that they had. Remember that the mantra of our liberation struggle was the seizure of state power in order to use the state to mediate the oppressive circumstances of our people, in order to use the state to alleviate our people from poverty and marginalization. So state capture was always going to be about usurping that and undermining that strategic objective of the state. So to risk your career, your standing, your positioning with the leadership of the organization, to take on the powerful and the mighty in the both business and the state system is a huge highlight. I think that had that not happened, we would be a very different country today.
Thank you so much for your reflections, Sipho Pityana. Really do appreciate it this morning. And again, as a comrade and friend of his, our condolences to you for your loss as well.